Hey guys, it's Rob. The reason for this video is to compare the M17 and the FlySky Noble. If you're on the fence about, should you invest in an M17 versus say a Noble, is it really worth spending the money? Or maybe you're thinking, I want to upgrade from a lower end radio, and you go to a price point like this or a high price point like this. So when my son and I started racing, we started with a very inexpensive FlySky radio. They're $50, $60. I think it's called a GT2B or GT2C. And at the time, as novices, we thought that was okay. But a fast racer drove our cars and said, look, I can't even drive this thing with this terrible radio, upgrade. And at the time, he suggested the M12, the predecessor to the M17. I couldn't afford it at the time, so we purchased two of the Nobles. And the difference between the $50 radio to the Noble was night and day. The cars were more responsive, easier to drive. The difference was astronomical. So if you're on a tight budget, you're getting started and you're considering buying one of those $50 radios, if you can afford it, at very least get yourself something like this, a Noble or a Sanwa, I think it's called a MT-44, I can't recall. Probably stay away from the really cheap $50 ones, if you can. If you're just getting started and that's all your budget can handle, go for it, have fun. But if you can afford it, at least go this route, if not kind of the mid-grade Sanwa, if you can find one. So, like I say, the reason for the video today is really to compare these two. And should you invest in this? Extremely expensive. This one, going back to the Noble, I think it was around, I'm gonna say $250 US roughly. Prices do fluctuate depending on where you buy it. When I purchased it, it came with a relatively large receiver. I should have had a couple receivers out to show you guys, but I don't. Fairly large receiver. After learning a little bit more, I found out, oh shoot, they do have some smaller receivers. Gosh, I should have had them out and ready so I could tell you the part number. I'll put some links or some information in the description as to receiver part numbers. So we found the smaller receiver, they were antenna-less, function great, and very, very affordable. I think they're $25 US, give or take each, again, depending on where you buy it. I think we bought one from Hobby King and maybe one from Amazon. We're in Canada, so it's a little bit hard to find this type of stuff. So we had to shop online, unfortunately. So what I like about the Noble, it functioned very, very well. Out of the box, no issues. Like I said before, dramatic improvement over our low-end radios. It's very, very user-friendly. It's a touchscreen. There's tons of videos online, so I won't go into the details, but just know it's very easy to use, extremely affordable, and very, very good. The reason we decided to invest in the M17s is we're trying to get better. And I always had in the back of my head, is this radio holding us back? So I finally took the plunge and I purchased two of these. I was fortunate enough to find a shop called Hyper Hobbies. It's in Canada. That's where I bought these from. Fair price. A little bit difficult to get these in Canada as well. No one has them in stock. I just fluked out and found him and he had two in stock, so I bought them both. Price, I'm trying to remember what they go for in the US. You'll know if you're considering it. Just check aMain or whatever your local hobby store might be able to get one for you if they don't have them in stock. Initial impressions of this, honestly, I didn't like it at first. So prior to using it, I found it very archaic to go through the menus, very, very difficult, not user-friendly, terrible instruction manual, and there's not as many videos on how to use this on YouTube versus this. So if you've got this and you're trying to figure out how to use it, tons of videos online, how to go through the menus and this and that. This one, not quite as much, but once I got used to it, it's not so bad. The menu is difficult to navigate, but for the most part, you end up using these buttons. So your trims, I think I've got this one set up for my steering dual right now, and this one I toggle through the menus. There's only two things that I'm struggling with. You have to go into the menus to change the model, and it takes a few button presses to get to there. This is a little bit faster, and I still can't figure out how to get the timer to work on this. This one, timer is straightforward, super easy to use. This one, I still have to mess around with it, maybe get someone to help, but not a big deal. So once I got used to it, it's not too bad. This one, didn't even have to read the manual, super easy. This one, I went through the manual in its broken English and struggled, starting to get it figured out. The most important thing though is, did this help us drive the cars? Maybe it's placebo, but both my son and I say that we can tell the difference. For me personally, the difference was how sensitive the throttle was. So very minimal inputs and the car was reacting. Same with the steering. Very, very minimal inputs and the car was reacting to what I was doing. Garrett's Noble has the newest firmware and he said his was very sensitive as well. Mine, my throttle at least, there's a fair bit of, I'll call it slack, and I couldn't figure out how to dial it out. So there was always a little bit of free play here with my Noble versus the Sanwa. It's extremely sensitive. So the smallest inputs made a difference. And I've heard the term connected to the car, you're feeling connected to the car. I don't know how to say it any better. Driving with the M17, I just felt a little more connected to the car. Again, maybe it's placebo, but both Garrett and I, Garrett did like 3 laps with this touring car this past weekend, and he looked at me and said, this radio is awesome. So he could tell the difference right away. And he's a young guy, and he doesn't care about, you know, brand names and that kind of thing. And he loves it. So would I do it again? Yes, definitely. I would spend the money on this. Should you? Well, it depends on your budget and what your goals are. We're trying to get as good as we can. So for us, it took me a while to spend the money. I had to buy 2 of them, one for myself and one for my son, but I'm glad we did. And if I could go back, let's say 2 years, when I was thinking about buying these, I probably should have just bought this right from the get-go if it was on the market. It might have been M12 time at that point, but no regrets in buying this. If your budget doesn't allow you to purchase this, go for the Noble. It's very, very good. If your long-term ambition is to get serious in the hobby and you can afford it, don't waste your time, just go right to the top and get this one. That's all I can think to say. They're both great radios, but if you can afford it, just go with the M17. Okay, thanks guys. I hope this helps in some way. Talk to you later.